Krystal joins me. She's the co-host of The Hills Rising. She's also the author of a new book, The Populist Guide to 2020, A New Right and a New Left Are Rising. She wrote that with her co-host, Sagar and Jetty, and it is doing fantastic, rising up in all the rankings. Krystal, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk. Thank you so much for having me. It's an exciting day. I'm kind of freaking out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. Well, you know, you have a really interesting dynamic there on the Rising and in the book, because you have populist left and populist right, which doesn't fit into anything else in Washington. Everything else in Washington is the establishment and hates the populist left and the populist right. But yet, you know, I feel like from the outside looking in, seems like you're well received, like people are intrigued by the Rising and by your book. I don't mean real people. Real people are definitely intrigued and definitely like it. But by Washington, am I seeing that wrong, or what's the reaction in Washington to you guys?
I mean, I think they're starting to be, because it's becoming undeniable that this populist energy, this 70% of America that is enraged by the political establishment on both sides, the 40% that says they literally want to burn it all down when they think about our political institutions, they can't deny that that dynamic is going on. So I think they are intrigued, because the reality is, look, we know the future of the Democratic Party. The future is a populist left, a more Sanders type party. We're going to find out tonight if that future is here now, or if we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But there's also a realignment happening on the right. So Sagar and I every day are sort of exploring where the overlap is, where the obvious tensions are, what that future might look like in a way that no one has really done yet. And Cenk, you know, I mean, one thing you can count on from the mainstream media is that they literally get every single thing wrong, because they're applying these old conventional wisdom heuristics that have been out of date for years and years now. So one of the things that we try to do in the book is to lay down the beginnings of a new frame that will actually be predictive, where you can actually understand what's happening and have some idea of where things are heading, which I know you intuitively grasp and talk about on your show all the time. So that was the goal of the book. We talk about the media bias, the candidates they're going to like, the candidates they're going to hate, the type of coalitions that matter in politics, the type of candidates that working class voters tend to be drawn to, and what an ultimate theory of change might look like that could realign the nation and center it around working class voters rather than the interest of the rich, which is what both parties are basically centered around today.
Yeah, Krystal, it sounds like you might be in a lot of trouble, because there's nothing Washington hates more than someone who's right. So, I mean, to your point, you just said it, and we covered it earlier in the show. Chris Matthews said, oh, you can't vote for Bernie Sanders because of what happened with McGovern in 1972, and that hence he's not electable, while ignoring what happened in the very last election in 2016, where the candidate he declared was eminently electable lost. So he's like, ignore 2016, let's go back to 1972. And then, right. Yeah, and then in terms of being able to lay things out ahead of time, well, look, that's why I make predictions on the show, because I want you to see how I'm thinking about it, why I'm coming to the conclusions I'm coming to, and so we're not doing Monday morning quarterback. We're giving you an outline for how you can view politics. But the thing is, on mainstream media, if you do that and you're right, they'll drive you from the platform. I mean, is there anybody on cable news now that was against the Iraq war? Is there anyone on cable news now that was correct about Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton in the primary, that Hillary Clinton might lose to Donald Trump? I literally can't think of one person who was right on any of those issues that are on cable news.
No, if you're right about those things, you're likely to lose your job. I mean, it's safe to be wrong in a way where the whole pack in Washington is wrong. Then there's absolutely no consequence. In fact, you'll probably be elevated in your job. But if you're right about things that are dangerous, that are risky, well, that's bad news for your career. I mean, just look at this primary. The media basically only noticed that Bernie Sanders was even running like 2 weeks ago. How many times did we hear such confident predictions? He'd be out by summer. Oh, no one likes him. Oh, he's got a hard ceiling on his support. Oh, he's divisive, he's angry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now here we are, and look, we don't know how it's gonna go tonight, but it looks very, very good for Bernie Sanders, not only in Iowa, but in New Hampshire. And their failure to grapple with that is not only a grave disservice to their viewers and to the country, but it also means that the mainstream folks who would very much like to stand in Bernie Sanders' way didn't have an accurate picture of what was unfolding before their very eyes.
Yeah, see, that's a great point, Krystal, because it's not just that they don't like Bernie Sanders. It's that they said right now they're saying he has no chance in the general election. But they just said for a year straight that he had no chance in these primaries. And yet here he is at #1. So will they ever acknowledge that they're wrong? And so, but it gets to a point where it's a little depressing that the people who are wrong are rewarded with multi-million-dollar contracts and then do propaganda to the masses, which is lie after lie after lie. They say, even though don't believe your lying eyes, we just told you that Bernie had no chance in the primaries, and now you see he's doing really well in the primaries, and then we're going to tell you that he has no chance in the general election, even though you just saw us lie for a year straight.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's really, I think the fact that our book, which it comes out on Friday, pre-orders are up right now. The fact that it's basically beating every other political book in the country, #1 in elections, without having gone through any of these gatekeepers, just shows you how hollow and fragile all of those institutions are. So they think that they're still really important. They think that they're still really relevant. And meanwhile, the public has just completely moved on from them. So I think that's the encouraging thing. I mean, in a way, the fact that the book has been so well received by regular people out there in the country, by a grassroots base, proves the thesis of the book, that this is the new reality of politics, that this is where the energy is today, and that these old gatekeepers who think they're still holding on to something have really already become irrelevant.
And the book's The Populist Guide to 2020, and I talked to Krystal before, so I know, like, it's totally organic, and that's why your success is also shocking them. Whereas the conservative guys, they literally have billionaires buy all their books, so it rises up the bestseller list. It's the saddest, most pathetic trick in the world. Whereas progressives have actual human beings who care about them. But that leads me to, look, the book's not just about populist left, it's also about populist right. So is there a place we can get to where we have actual genuine agreement between the right wing and the left wing, and not an agreement to lower taxes for the rich and start wars, which is the disingenuous agreement that the establishment Republicans and Democrats get to?
Well, I love the way you put this, and you understand this better than really anyone. There is a lot of bipartisan agreement in Washington today. It's around the interests of the wealthy. That's why if you look, and this isn't just me saying this, there's political scientists who've done the research who say if you're a wealthy person, you're very much likely to have your needs met by Washington. If you are anyone else, good luck, right? There's a lot of bipartisan consensus around cutting taxes for the rich, around rolling out bad new trade plans. I mean, look at what they did, the Democrats did the day after they impeached Donald Trump. There's a lot of bipartisan consensus around endless wars. We've certainly seen that over the past number of years. So what Sagar and I try to model is what the best possible incarnation of a new populist left and right could be, where rather than competing for the affections of the wealthy in this country, it's about competing for the affections of the working class. Now, look, you and I both agree the populist right in many ways is dangerous, racist, xenophobic, all of those things. But I've been surprised working with Sagar every day how much overlap we have in the diagnosis of the sort of core rot in the country and the hollowness of these values of consumerism and the Walmartization of all our towns have just sort of sucked the life out of so many of our small towns, small cities, and also out of the working class in large urban cities as well. So the fact that we at least agree on that diagnosis is an encouraging starting point. I think there are some potential areas of agreement and some potential definite areas of radical disagreement. But what we're exploring is the best hopes of what that new realignment might look like in the future.
Yeah, as loathsome as Tucker Carlson is on things like immigration, he is genuinely anti-war. And it might be for the wrong reasons, but I'll take it. And he's
Cenk, Fox News has more Bernie Sanders supporters than MSNBC or CNN because they're more fair to him as an anti-establishment guy than the quote unquote liberal media, if that tells you anything.
So is the right wing as disgusted by their politicians as we are? So do they look at Mitch McConnell and do they see like this bastion of corruption, or are they still blind to it?
No, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I can tell you that certainly for Sagar and for elements of the new right, they are just as disgusted with the establishment Republicans as we are with the establishment Democrats, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't been crushed yet. Okay, so where can people get the book, Krystal?
All right, you can go to Barnes & Noble or you can go to Amazon. If you pre-order the book now and send an email to krystalandsauger@gmail.com, we will personally record a video. Now, it might take a little while because we've gotten a lot of these requests, but you can pre-order the book now. It goes on sale officially on Friday, and we're really grateful to all of you out there who have supported us at Rising and who've been ordering the book. It means a lot to us, and I think, again, it's just a demonstration of the energy behind a populist movement that we're seeing sweep the country, tonight being perfect example.
All right, Populist Guide 2020. Krystal Ball, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cenk.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.